Joining us is Stevan Novoselac, leader of Gowling's WLG's tax dispute resolution team. Stevan, thank you for being here.
It's great to be here, Arlene.
All right, it's a bit confusing. You know, when the Panama Papers first came out, a lot of people in the tax world for corporations and high-end tax have said it really was a legal tax haven. Now that the database has come out, is that still true? Let me ask you first of all.
Sure. Well, there are certainly a number of legitimate reasons for establishing an offshore entity. There could be business activities in the foreign jurisdiction. There could be security reasons or other perfectly legitimate reasons for doing so. But what makes it illegal is when offshore assets and income are not reported to the Canada Revenue Agency.
And that may be the case. What do you think we can find here?
Well, time will tell as to whether or not it's a situation of where there's smoke, there's fire. But certainly, this Canada Revenue Agency will be looking into this with a great deal of interest and probably rather aggressively.
And so what they're going to find is that this may be a way, when we say the word haven, does that mean it's a cheating mechanism?
As I say, not necessarily. There could be legitimate reasons, or it could be used for purposes of tax evasion.
All right. So as this happens around the world, we understand that this one company is only one. There's lots and lots of places where this happens other than Panama.
That's right. There's certainly a number of jurisdictions that have gotten reputations as so-called tax havens, and Panama has certainly been one that's in the focus right now.
Are they legal? I mean, we also hear of people, going to the Bahamas. It's been no secret that many people open businesses there.
That's correct. So as I said earlier, there are legitimate reasons for doing so, but they have also been used for illicit purposes of concealing money and not remitting taxes as they're owed. It's important to understand that Canada has a tax system that's based on residency. So as a Canadian resident, all Canadians are required to report and pay tax on their income worldwide. So regardless of where the income is earned, there's an obligation to report and pay tax on it in Canada. And so when a Canadian citizen establishes an offshore entity and doesn't report the income that's earned through that entity that they are beneficially owning, that does constitute an illegal activity. That would be tax evasion.
One of the things that people are talking about is, hey, if you have a high-priced accountant and a high-priced lawyer, that maybe you can get away with this stuff where regular people can't.
Well, I think that's probably not entirely fair to say. Certainly, there is tax planning that's done. That's legitimately, it's within the boundaries of the rules. But where the CRA gets more anxious about it is when it's done in what they would consider to be more of an aggressive or going too far.
And this may be the case if people have gone to an offshore. And if they do go to an offshore, is it just because they've had dealings with the country? I mean, it seems a lot of trouble to go to.
There are certainly, as I said earlier, cases where they've gone there for the reasons of wanting to do business in that jurisdiction. And so that can and does happen. It's not simply by virtue of there being an offshore entity can a reasonable conclusion be drawn that anything illegal has been done.
How do you think it's going to affect the way things work in the future? Are big, people who can do this, are they going to be under more scrutiny? Are they going to make different decisions?
Well, I think that's a very good question, and certainly there's an issue of public perception and branding and image and all of those things that companies and individuals are going to carefully take into consideration in terms of whether they would do a plan that might be perceived as being too aggressive. And from the Canada Revenue Agency's point of view, they have certainly ratcheted up their efforts to pursue this type of thing. The most recent budget is allocated almost $450 million over the next 5 years to hire new auditors, increase their workload, develop infrastructure, and just do all sorts of different things to enhance their ability to pursue these types of things, including hiring 100 new auditors to investigate what they would consider or call high-risk multinational corporations and increase the annual audits of what they, again, would define as high-risk taxpayers from 600 to 3,000. And so we've certainly seen this in conjunction with special programs to target organizations that sell these, what they would, again, consider to be tax schemes to high-net-worth individuals. So the CRA is certainly on to this and is pursuing it aggressively.
Have they ever done this before?
Well, the Canada Revenue Agency certainly has been pursuing this for years, but I think, as I said, it's fair to say that their efforts have been ratcheted up.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Stevan. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.